As stated earlier in the lesson, Drawabox is not a perspective course. What Drawabox seeks to teach is grounded in perspective, but where courses in linear perspective tend to focus on a lot of memorization of rules, something that would depend more on your conscious and active brain in order to apply them, what we're learning here is to push those rules of perspective, and more importantly, the truths of the 3D world around us, into our subconscious. In doing this, we free our brains to consider what it is we wish to draw, rather than how. This course works towards this goal by starting us off with an overview of those rules, giving us an opportunity to play with them through the use of training wheels in the sense of learning to ride a bicycle, but gradually pulls those training wheels away one at a time. In the previous exercise, we were allowed to plot our lines all the way back to the vanishing points to guarantee that they're all converging consistently and correctly. In this exercise, we will be estimating those convergences by eye instead. In addition to this, while we'll continue to use a ruler to draw our compositional frames and our horizon line, we will be freehanding the boxes themselves using the ghosting method introduced earlier in this lesson. You've seen me do this in the video for the previous exercise, so we'll speed through it. Just be sure to use a ruler or a straight edge, and take your time, ensuring that the horizontals and verticals of the frame are perpendicular to one another. We will be arranging all our boxes in a one-point perspective setup. This means that all of the boxes will be oriented parallel to one another and to the ground plane, with their faces oriented towards the viewer, perpendicularly to the viewer's angle of sight. This also means that where in the plotted perspective exercise we had two sets of horizontal edges, which would converge towards their own vanishing points when drawn as lines on the flat page, and one set of vertical edges governed by an infinite vanishing point, our boxes in this exercise will feature two infinite vanishing points. The horizontals and verticals of our boxes will remain parallel when drawn on the page, leaving only those lines that extend off into the depth of the scene to converge towards a single vanishing point. This vanishing point should be positioned towards the center of the frame. In the plotted perspective exercise, we were working with one infinite vanishing point, and so we started with a single vertical edge. Here, we have two infinite vanishing points, one for the verticals and one for the horizontals, so we can start with an entire rectangle to define the front face of a single box. Keep your horizontals parallel to the horizon line and your verticals perpendicular to it. At this stage, you do not need to worry about the vanishing point. You can place the rectangle wherever you wish in the frame. We now have the four corners of the box that are closest to the viewer defined. In this situation in the plotted perspective exercise, we plotted lines back from each corner to each vanishing point to establish more of the box's edges. This resulted in those edges being drawn all the way back to the vanishing point, meaning they'd be infinitely long in 3D space and far overshoot what we need for this box. In this exercise, we are not permitted to do this. Instead, we have to estimate the orientation of this edge, while also deciding on how deep it is going to be. Again, we're drawing boxes, not cubes, so you can use whatever length you choose. The focus here is on trying to get the back corner to align towards the vanishing point. Instead of simply eyeballing it and hoping for the best, we have a tool that can be useful here. The ghosting method, which we introduced earlier in this lesson, and which we will be using for every free-handed stroke throughout this course, can help us out here. We already have 2 points, the corresponding front corner of the box and the vanishing point. Take your pen and ghost through the motion of drawing the line that connects these 2 points, but don't actually draw the mark. Pay attention to the trajectory it follows. Once you feel confident that you have a sense of this particular path, stop ghosting and place a point somewhere along it. This is the tricky part. As soon as you stop ghosting, your sense of that path will fade quickly. But if you rush and draw the point as quickly as possible, you may make a mistake out of sloppiness. So there's a balance to strike here, and it's something you'll get used to with practice. I absolutely expect you to make mistakes with this, and you'll see that I will too. Focus on doing the best of which you are currently capable, as that is both the most and the least you can ask of yourself. The process for the remaining 3 corners is essentially the same, except that we can keep in mind that the resulting back face will be a rectangle like the closer face. This means that the horizontals still need to run parallel to the horizon, and the verticals need to run perpendicular to it. This can in some ways help in identifying the positioning of our other corners, but you'll still want to focus most of all on ghosting back to the vanishing point in order to find the correct orientation for each edge. Now we've got a bunch of points, and what's left is to connect them using the ghosting method. Give each individual stroke as much time as it requires. The planning phase of the ghosting method is already done as we've got our points established, but I find that it helps to gently touch my pen to the points I want to connect so that I can remember exactly the task at hand. From there, ghost through the drawing motion in one direction to get comfortable with the motion that is required, and finally execute the stroke confidently without any hesitation. Remember that the moment your pen touches the page, any opportunity to avoid a mistake has passed. All you can do is commit to the action you've practiced and push through. As you can see here, I am drawing through the box as though I have X-ray vision, so be sure that when you're done, your box is made up of a full 12 edges. By using the exact same process, draw another 4 or 5 boxes to fill in the rest of the frame. As with everything, it's simply a matter of taking your time and going through the steps carefully. Don't rush and don't skip anything. In our final step, and you can choose to do this after each frame or after each page is completed, we're going to find out just how accurate we were in estimating the orientation of the edges for the depth dimension of our boxes. We'll do this by taking a pen of a different color and with a ruler, drawing lines through every front-back pair of each box. In other words, we'll start from the front corner of a box, extend back along the edge in the depth dimension, through the corresponding back corner, and continue on until it hits the horizon line. In the past, I've been asked by students what they should do if the edge they drew actually missed one of the corners. In such situations, they're unsure as to whether they should extend the edge itself and therefore ignore the points, or if they should ignore the edge and extend through the points only. The answer is that both have their benefits, and you can do whichever you choose. Just be consistent. Don't use the edge in one case and the corners in another within the same page of the exercise. You can switch it up between pages if you like, or stick to just one method. In the end, though, it doesn't really matter much, so don't get hung up on it. Do, however, make sure that the line is either following the trajectory of the edge you've drawn, or passing through both front and back corners of a given pair. Do not simply draw them in arbitrary directions or from a corner to the vanishing point. And of course, make sure you're extending the lines through the depth dimension. As you can see here, I accidentally extended a horizontal edge without noticing. Once all the line extensions are done, we're left with a bunch of lines hitting the horizon line in a variety of locations. If the exercise was done perfectly, which again is something you'll be striving for, but something you're unlikely to achieve, then every one of these line extensions would hit the horizon line at the vanishing point and nowhere else. By studying where this is not the case, for example, here, where we can see that the further away from the vanishing point the box is in the frame, the further my estimation of its orientation is from being correct. We can identify patterns of behavior that can tell us where we may need to pay more attention, or to simply push ourselves to slant our edges' orientations further. So if I was drawing a box way out here, then I might want to consciously push myself to slant it a little further out. That was rather sloppy, but you get the idea. It is through this kind of analysis that we can provide ourselves with hard facts about the things we tend to do, so that these tendencies can be corrected consciously. In the long run, this trains our instincts so we don't need to think quite so consciously about everything we're doing, but we only achieve that by being hyper-conscious with every action we take throughout this course, whether it is in using the ghosting method for every free-handed stroke, or in considering the specific orientation of every edge in everything we construct in 3D space. We put all that time in here so that outside of the course, we can focus instead on what we want to draw instead of the specifics of how. That is how we maintain a flow state where creativity is maximized.